You are now being connected to the conference. Please stand by.
Hello, do we have Michael signed on?
Yeah, this is Michael.
Hi, great, Michael. This is Laura, and Caroline's with me too.
Okay.
So we have 9 folks that have called in and 7 that are on the web. So shall we go through the roll call and see who's here?
As soon as I find that roll call link to that Google Doc, yes, the answer is yes, but hold on one second.
Okay.
Okay, today is March 27th. Okay, I'm ready.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for calling in. Let's go ahead and get started. This is Michael Segala. I'll lead roll call starting with the MPOs, north to south. San Joaquin COG, who do we have on from San Joaquin COG? Diane, Rob? Nope. All right. Moving right along. Stanislaus Council of Governments. Okay, Isiel, thank you. Moving right along. Merced County Association of Governments. Anyone from Merced? Anyone from San Joaquin?
Rob Cunningham is here.
Oh, okay, Rob. And Madera County Transportation Commission?
Hi, this is Amelia.
Okay, thank you. Fresno Council of Governments?
Hi, this is Peggy.
Peggy, all right. Kings County Association of Governments?
Hi, this is Teresa.
Teresa Nickel, thank you. Tulare County Association of Governments? Tulare County. Merced County, anybody from Merced? Okay.
I am here, Mauricio Torres. I'm with the Transit Joint Powers Authority.
With Merced?
Yes.
Mauricio Torres, got you. Okay, thank you. Tulare County, Kern Council of Governments?
Hi, we're here. Can you hear us?
Yes, but who's
okay,
we?
Good. You have Linda, Urata, Bob Snoddy, and Rob Ball.
Okay, got the whole crew. Very good. And Angela Shepard, Caltrans headquarters. Lorena Mendibles, District 6. Nicholas Fung, District 10. Tom Dumas, District 10. Anyone? Okay. Rich Green, Merced County Association Transit. And Shawnee Alford. Okay. I think we covered it, Laura. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Is that what you're showing on the call? 11 folks?
Yeah, I have. Well, there's audio. I think a couple other people beeped in.
Okay.
There's another
Anybody?
beep.
Yeah, can I get your names if I didn't ask for your name earlier?
Hi, this is Natalia Austin from MCAG.
Okay, thank you, Natalia. Anybody else?
Hi, this is Lorena Mendibles with Caltrans.
Okay, hi Lorena. Got
Hello.
you. Anybody else?
Esperanza Velasco with Fresno COG.
Oh, hey, okay.
Hi.
Okay.
Stephen Hanamaikai also.
Who is that?
Stephen Hanamaikai from Stan COG.
Okay, Stephen. Okay, so we have all the MPOs except for Tulare. Anybody from Tulare? Okay, Caroline and Laura. We got a good crowd except for Tulare.
Yeah, we have a good group.
Yeah.
So I hope everyone signed on to the webinar, and we're going to be talking to the slides quite a bit. And if you're not, then just let us know, and we'll make sure that we're referencing the slide number. I just sent this out to everyone about an hour and a half or 2 hours ago. So for today's meeting, we wanted to have the opportunity to present the findings and recommendations from the phase 1 of this project. I know Caroline has been in touch with all of you on one-on-one calls and conversations to go through the data for each of your counties. And so Caroline has taken that and has some final results and recommendations to share with you all. And what we're really hoping is that the TAC can give us feedback and recommendations on the communities that we want to carry forward into the phase 2 of this project. And I think everyone is aware that the directors are very involved and engaged and interested in this project, and because of that, they've requested that we come and provide a presentation at their regional directors meeting on April 6th, so next week. And so at that meeting, we would like to bring forward the recommendations of the TAC on what communities should, carry forward to phase 2. For their consideration. The directors might have their own opinion, so that's something that we'll talk about and discuss with them, but we would like to bring forward the recommendations from the TAC. Again, in my email, I did mention that we know that you all might have to go back to your directors or others on staff before you can recommend the communities, and that's fine. And so, at one point, we would like to discuss if we need to make that decision today, or if we should schedule another check-in call early next week. So we'd just like some feedback on that. But again, if we could put a pin in that conversation towards the end of our call. Something else I wanted to put on everyone's radar before I hand it over to Caroline is this question we have about readiness. And that's something we've talked with all of you earlier in this project about. And it's something that we really need to hear back from the TAC, and it's a measure we think is important to understanding the success of a pilot, which is really information that you all know much more, better than we do or ever could. And so these are some of our questions, and we've talked about these questions with the directors as well, is how do you quantify readiness? And so these are some of the questions that we had. I know some agencies have said that they have their own funding to support a pilot program. So that was one of our questions and measures of readiness. Is there staff capacity at your agency to implement a pilot? And I think this pertains not to only implementing a pilot if we were successful in securing funding to implement, but also for this phase 2 of the project. Really having a point person on your staff that could be a little bit more involved than everyone has currently been, even though you've all been great and so involved to date. For this phase 2, we'll be doing additional, more detailed work in one of the counties, and so we just want to make sure there is staff capacity at that agency that can be our point person. And then the third one, with some of the alternatives that Caroline's going to be presenting, what we're discovering is partnerships are key. And so that was another measure of readiness, is just to gain a better understanding of the relationships your agency currently has to some key partners that we feel are going to be important for the success of a pilot. And they vary with the different concepts. And Caroline, again, will go over that a little bit more when we talk about the concepts. But some of them we've listed here, transit agency, obviously. One of the concepts will be a car sharing program in partnership with an affordable housing developer. Hence, you will need a relationship with an affordable housing developer to make that successful. And then the last one is, we've heard from several agencies and the directors that they have, board support, they're fully behind this, they're ready to go, and so that would be just good feedback for us, is to know, what MPOs or RTPAs, do they have the support of their board to go forward with this. And again, we're meeting with all of your directors on April 6th, so they can elaborate on any of these, but again, it's just something we wanted to put on your radar. And again, if we can just put a pin in this and come back to it during the discussion portion of the call, that'd be greatly appreciated. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Caroline, and she's just going to run through the slides that we sent earlier today and talking about the different findings and recommendations.
Okay, hello everybody. So a lot of you have already seen some of these kind of recommendations and analyses, but I've gotten a lot of feedback from all of you and better data. So I went back and did another kind of analysis, and I've talked a lot with many of your transit agencies, kind of, you know, and it was nice that actually the analysis that we did really corresponded to the recommendations made by the transit agencies and the TAC. Okay, so we all know the problem, you know, addressed by this project. Let's see, I'm just going to whip through these because I'm hoping, let's see. So the goal of the project is to identify pilot concepts and locations that will leverage shared use mobility services. So I know I'm switching terminologies with you now, but I decided to do this because it just, it was easier to separate out the different services. So I'm just going to go over the new terminology, and this is what's, you know, kind of used in the federal documents, and so please bear with me. So first is ride sourcing. So this is like an Uber or Lyft, a taxi-like service, you know, where you have reservations and payments online with one paying customer. And then you have ride splitting, which is basically, that can be an Uber and Lyft type service, where, you know, each ride, if there's more than one rider, each gets a discount, typically like $5, but there is someone else, there is, say, like an Uber or Lyft driver. There are also examples, say, for example, BlaBlaCar in Europe, and also Karma in the U.S. and Waze, where, you know, private drivers can join an organization or some kind of pool, and they can be reimbursed for a portion of the cost of the trip. So, for example, Waze right now will reimburse as much as 54 cents a mile. And I believe, you know, I'm hoping I can talk a little bit more to the San Joaquin Valley staff, because I believe they're working with Karma, you know, looking at, they have a partnership with Karma doing something like this. Okay, micro-transit. So this, again, this is like the bridge type service, and I know all of you are familiar with that. It's more, so it's like transit, except that, you know, there's a program that uses historical and current data to, you know, develop routes in real time to best serve passengers. So many of you know the Kansas City pilot. In Kansas City, Bridges basically provided the software for that service. And then I know all of you are familiar with car sharing, and in this context I'm talking about round-trip car sharing, you know, short-term rental, vehicles checked out and returned to the same location, so this would be Zipcar. And I know many of you are familiar with that, so, okay. So I just want to go over our approach. You know, the first step we all did is we, you know, identified those rural census tracts, and then we looked at the Cal-Enviro screen, identified those that were 75 percentile or above, and then we also went back to you in case you felt like there was some issue that you wanted to modify that. So that is fine. And then current level of service. So that is, I've worked all with you on this. You know, basically using your schedules and Google Maps, and, you know, recently I've been using all transit metrics to do my best to quantify kind of the level of access to transit stops in census tracts, as well as the frequency of transit service to basically major inner-city destinations. And then potential cost savings. So I think, you know, we've gone through this before. I've got a lot better data on costs after consulting with all of you. Thank you very much. We use the from Google Maps, we use travel time and travel cost for origin destination pairs and local fare structures. So for example, in Fresno Uber to calculate these fares. And then we use the Sacramento fare structure for car sharing trips. And I've redone in this analysis ride splitting. I took off $5 from the low ride sourcing estimate. Okay, conceptual alternatives. So after I looked at all this, the challenges that you all have faced, I kind of came, and Laura and I talked, and I kind of came down to three different kinds of concepts. First, ride sourcing and ride splitting as an alternative to fixed route transit. So I'm not saying right now we should get rid of any fixed route transit, but potentially we could, apply for some funds and see if, a well-executed pilot might show promise to provide, service to more people than can a pretty expensive fixed route service right now in some areas. Okay, the next concept we saw was ride sourcing, ride splitting, and microtransit alternatives to dial-a-ride. So this would be kind of general dial-a-ride, not door-to-door dial-a-ride service. So I can get more into the details on that when I go forward. And then car sharing partnerships, so with affordable housing complexes and or cities. I mean, both of those seem like they could be potential, have a lot of potential for us. Okay, how can I get rid of this? So this is, so here I have
the slide. Hey Caroline, on that previous slide, the middle one, the middle bullet to, I don't quite understand. Are you talking about this is somehow a connection where somebody takes an Uber Lyft ride to a dial-a-ride?
No, sorry, these would be, you may be able to use ride sourcing, ride splitting, and or microtransit to substitute for an expensive dial-a-ride service. Does that make sense? I'll get more into details when I get to that slide about what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's better, thanks.
Okay. Okay, so now you can see these are the areas, and it's slightly different than what you saw before, but not entirely. These are areas where, you can see I have, these are one-way costs, and I've estimated for transit, a high ride sourcing fare, which ensures that the driver would be paid, 54 cents a mile, which is the federal reimbursement rate for the round trip, as well as minimum wage for the round trip. The low ride sourcing fare, which is basically what, the current fare structure is, and also the ride splitting fare, which just gives a $5 discount from the low ride sourcing fare. So you can see here, these are areas where, this was actually the hardest test. This cost is just for the fixed route transit costs. And so these are areas I tried to identify kind of sheds where, it was served by specific transit lines. So these are only areas that I see the potential, if, based on our data that, these are disadvantaged areas, and that perhaps we could come in at a lower cost with some of these services. However, I'm going to give you the caveats. Of course, as I mentioned before, we would want to have some confidence. This is still really a new concept, and we would want to make sure we have additional funding to use this as a supplement before and then carefully evaluate whether, in fact, the fixed route could be eliminated. I did my best to kind of consider the shed. the kind of transit shed there, but, there may be upstream and downstream effects, for example, transfers that, need to be investigated and I'm not fully capturing in this analysis. And then again, we need to think about, in many cases, a lot more people would have access to these services. Many people, in these census tracts can't walk to bus stops, or they have to take dial-it-ride, which is, there's a limit to how you can use dial-ride. Typically, you reserve it in advance. So we could see, significant increase in demand for services, which then could impact total yearly operating costs. Okay. So I'm going to say what I think are positives about these types of services. It's proven technology and service in many areas in the U.S. There are a number of partnerships with, say, Uber and Lyft and all these different companies, with cities and counties and transit agencies. The challenges related to smartphone access and payment, appear to be addressed, or at least nearing being addressed, particularly with the payment system. These do not seem to be a major barrier. The level of mobile broadband access, I think I showed you some of those maps earlier. There's not great broadband access in your area. However, based on my conversations with, the TNCs, they said that is not a problem. And another thing with these ride sourcing and ride splitting services, you don't have to manage a fleet like you do with a car sharing service. So that is a bit easier. However, there are a number of challenges. First of all is identification of the level of subsidies that you would want to provide. And, that's going to be really critical to getting the TNCs to come to the table. Many of the locations we're trying to serve, TNCs aren't there for a reason. They don't think they'll make money. So there's going to have to be some kind of guarantee to get them to the table. Managing demand, this is something, you can do by setting prices. How you set the price, the lower the price, the more people will use it. But on the other hand, you want disadvantaged people to use the service. Limiting the types of trips you allow people to use, for example, for medical or, off-hour shift work, that may be something you're interested in pursuing. So encouraging the use of low-emission vehicles. This is a question. I know there are lots of subsidies for low-emission, for battery electric vehicles in the valley, and it looks like there's a big push to install infrastructure for those vehicles. It may be, we could offer some incentives for drivers with low emission vehicles, some financial incentives. Supporting ride splitting, that's not a given. The reason, they're talking to the TNCs, they seem a bit reluctant to bring that service to the valley. Many times they are, they need a certain density, temporal and spatial density of demand to support that type of service. So we need to do some creative thinking around this, because that's what we really want to see. We want to see a lot of ride splitting. An early idea is that perhaps, Uber and Lyft have these book ahead programs, and perhaps we could, include those in the program, and somehow having people book ahead for these trips, we could better facilitate ride splitting. But again, that's something new that would have to be worked out. Educating users is critical. From everything I've read, that is just critically important. It's a lesson learned from all the pilot projects that are going on right now, and frequently it's hard to get the funding. They report it's hard to get the funding to do this. So that's something we really need to make sure we have, incorporated well in this pilot project. And then recruiting drivers, that is going to be a major issue. We want to try to recruit drivers in, the areas in which, in these communities, we're more likely, the disadvantaged communities, we're more likely to get drivers who will say, like, work an hour in that community and give their time to do a ride. I'm kind of thinking college students who bought a car to get to school, they may have a couple of hours, and we're likely to get lower costs if we're able to recruit people. And it's also, hopefully, would be economically beneficial to those groups. Okay, moving along. Am I talking too much? Okay, so this next slide is showing ride sourcing, ride splitting, and microtransit alternatives to dial-a-ride. And you can see that there are some pretty hefty costs for some of these dial-a-ride services. And it, on the face of this table, it looks like, yeah, well, we could easily reduce costs here, but it's a bit more complicated than that. So I'm just going to move on, try to go more quickly. So because, and I've discussed this with many of you, basically, in order to meet requirements of the ADA and people who need kind of door-to-door type services, if we provide one service, for example, this ride sourcing, there has to be another service that provides equivalent services to those who are disabled, and that would be, if you're receiving federal funds. So, in Tulare County, it looks like this, there's a possibility in northern Tulare County. Talking to the transit agencies there, they have a lot of fixed route transit service that serves the major cities, or the major towns. I don't know if you call them towns or cities, but and the service is very frequent. However, communities that kind of are smaller communities that are around those major areas are not, they're providing really expensive paratransit to meet the needs there. So they feel that they can meet the equivalent service requirement for disabled people through their deviated fixed route transit service. So that looks like a promising model for that area, and they have very high dial-a-ride costs. Escalon in the San Joaquin County, they're kind of the opposite extreme. So they use one van that services both dial-a-ride service for disabled and non-disabled populations. So even though their costs are really super high, they still need to have that van to meet the needs of disabled people. They would still need that even if they introduce the other service. So, so kind of the bottom line in Tulare County, it would, it makes sense to really look at, the ride sourcing and ride splitting service. But in the San Joaquin County, there may be alternatives to look at kind of a cooperative operation of multiple jurisdictions dial-a-ride services, perhaps by a group of people going in on microtransit dynamic routing software that a group of people could use. I mean, this is institutionally much more complicated, but the dial-a-ride is a really tough problem for a lot of places. That we also kind of thought that we might be able to expand the network to include a lot of those nonprofit organizations that are providing transportation services. This could, so that will, initially the multi-jurisdictional dial-a-ride service could be supplemented through those other organizations and use the microtransit software. Also, we did hear that there are a number that volunteer drivers would be more plentiful if there was an easy way to reimburse drivers for their costs. So there is this Waze carpool. It's used largely for commute trips, but I think that it's worth looking into how it might be used to reimburse volunteer drivers, and that might be an interesting place to look at. So we see kind of a cross-county opportunity in rural Manteca, Escalon, Riverbank, and Modesto. In these kind of rural areas, there are multi-jurisdictions operating there, and this might be something to look at. However, it would be pretty complicated to set up. But at the very least, it's something to kind of keep on, to consider for the future. Okay, so now here we have all our car sharing partnerships with rural affordable housing in cities. So Patterson, I apologize, I'm just seeing this, I forgot to add the housing. You have quite a bit actually, and one plan, I understand. So these are basically the areas where I'm suggesting, there's the potential to reduce costs by, developing these car sharing partnerships. So this is largely dictated by whether you have services there. And in some of these services, in some places car sharing could work in the same areas where where we showed benefit from, say, ride sourcing and ride sharing services. So you'll see some overlap here. But I wanted to give you kind of a sense of the breadth of locations where, based on, I think, a somewhat conservative analysis, you could see benefit. Okay, so advantages and challenges of car sharing. So this is a proven technology and business model. It's been operational for quite some time. I kind of added in that table, split car sharing. I'm giving it a name. So basically, you could use something like Wade's carpool, so that the car sharing could be split by two people, or perhaps that could be folded into the reservation system for the car sharing service. We see that there are some pretty high density rural areas with affordable housing. There are, it looks to me within a 4 kind of block area, there are many thousands of residents where there are these affordable housing complexes. We have, we've talked about the benefits of affordable housing, and then there appears to be a lot of funding possibilities for these types of services. And we have done, we now have our surveys back. We got about 750 surveys looking at this, residents and how they might use these services, and through a partnership with the self-help enterprises. So we're right now madly entering the data and analyzing the results. It may be possible to address some of the first and last mile issues. One of the problems with car sharing is you have the first and last mile problem. However, it may be possible to recruit drivers who are using the car sharing vehicles to become ride sourcing drivers, to kind of expand that first mile access. And there's also maybe opportunities to leverage investments in pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. For example, I think there's one community, Las Penas, is that correct, where they are thinking of making some improvements. And, a bike sharing program would be pretty affordable. Okay, one of the harder things is, electric vehicle fleet management and, operating the car sharing service. I mean, it does look that like, it could, if you partner with a Zipcar or say an enterprise rental car, there's an example in Needles right now where they just partnered with Enterprise Rental Car. And in the town square, they have a vehicle located in front of their credit union for people to use with $5 an hour. So that, that's another type of alternative. So this looks like it's promising also because it does appear that there is a lot of funding available for this. Okay, I think that's it. So questions, concerns?
And let me chime in really quick, because in talking with Caroline, our recommendation to the TAC is for phase 2, we're going to be picking up to 3 communities. And so our recommendation is to choose one community from each of these 3 concepts. So I think, that's our recommendation. And really, for the TAC, it's up to you all to decide, what communities you'd want to focus on, or if that's the route that you want to go with picking one from each of these concepts.
This is Michael. I could add, sorry, I'm not MPO staff, but I would add that you would pick one community per county as well, so that MPOs are free to proceed with a pilot for that community if they're not part of the 3 that are chosen later on.
Okay, well, we have identified projects for each county.
Right, but some counties have multiple. That's all I'm saying.
So for so what you're saying, Michael, for the TAC members, for each of the MBOs to identify their top priority? Their top community or their top pilot?
Their top community, right. Because am I reading this wrong? But like Merced, for example, has 2 different options they could choose?
Mm-hmm. They have 2 different areas, so I think the only one for Merced is a car-sharing partnership. We thought that was the best one for Merced, and there are 2 areas.
Okay.
And that's what's penciled out. And you may, these are the best estimates I could get from you all for transit costs. So, I mean, there might be information I'm not privy to, so, I've done it based on, costs, where it came out ahead.
Right. Okay.
So can a TAC member just chime in and give us feedback on how you would like to make the selection? Do you have the information you need now? Are there any questions that you have that you would like to ask us?
This is Stephen Stankog. I think I have a couple of ideas of what direction we would go, but we would obviously have to, talk to our executive director, and actually probably also want to talk to the transit agency that would be involved. But I think what we're saying now is, just to choose our top priority per county is the best approach probably.
Okay, great.
So so maybe what we propose is that each MPO, each county provide us their recommendation, and then we will present all of those to the board on the 6th and leave it to the directors to make the final call?
And I'll give them a cost estimate to develop a business plan.
Like if they wanted to do it outside of this project?
Yeah.
Because that's also been a request from the directors, is that they want a business plan for every county, and that's just not going to fit within the budget we have currently. So yeah, that's going to be another option that Caroline's going to discuss with them.
Right. And the cost to do that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So again, I'm sorry, I got disconnected on the call, so I apologize if I'm taking a minor step backwards. But for each major category, right, sourcing, right, splitting, car sharing, you want this group now to identify one community for each of those.
Oh, not for each. I think one community and one concept.
Right, in one concept. But for example, only one. But for example, the first one, ride sourcing and ride splitting alternatives, you only have 3 different counties listed. So are you saying you already eliminate, these are the highest producing results communities that you identified?
These, based on the information I have, these are the areas where they're most likely, but this is to replace a fixed route transit, not dial-a-ride. So this is basically where I found the most robust possibilities. And again, if the transit costs change, if I get different information, you all can go back and look at that if there's something I missed. But this is my recommendations based on, my conversations with people I've had conversations with. Fresno County, I just kind of threw out what, I know you have 2 pilots now already that are 2 exciting pilots that look like they're funded. So, but I still, needed to go ahead and, evaluate what I thought, evaluate your county the same way. And actually, I do think that the findings are consistent with the programs that are being funded, support the programs that you're going forward within your county.
Does that help, Michael?
And I did talk to transit agencies and TAC staff about these areas. So pretty much with the exception of Fresno, but other areas, I basically didn't. I mean, you can let me know if I've missed something here, but I kind of felt like these quantitative results were consistent with the guidance I got from the community, from the MPOs. Do you feel that this is a bad idea to move forward in this way, or do you feel like there's another approach with the directors?
Should we just go north to south? I feel like we need to put you all on the spot because we're lost here. We need some direction from the TAC.
I need some guidance. We really need to get this summer. I need to get the groundwork laid so we can collect data from these different communities in the summer. So we wanted to connect with local NGOs to really do some focus groups, maybe surveys, to really get a sense of, what actually could work in those communities. So,
this is Kings County. So of these 4 alternatives, I will email you one of them after I speak with KCAPTA and my director.
Okay.
We just got this before lunch, so haven't had time to discuss it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
This is Stephen at Stancog again. I have, my idea of who I'll recommend as far as communities, but it's just between the 2 different alternatives, or the alternatives to the dial-a-ride, as well as the partnerships with the affordable housing.
Okay. Yeah, and if you could rank the ones that you're most interested in pursuing, Steve, that's what would be helpful information to bring forward to all 8 of the directors. This is Stanislaus County's priority. They want to do like the car share affordable housing one first, or that would be great feedback for us. Of the ones that we've presented to you, let us know which ones are your priorities.
Okay, yeah, we can do.
And then also, going back to this readiness, I think there has to be a real honest conversation about this too, that again, we need your feedback on, with staff capacity for a pilot, if there is any funding that the MPO is going to contribute. Again, I think it's just something to put your directors on the spot, because we did attend a meeting with the directors and several of them said, yeah, we have money to throw in, and I just don't, I think it would be good to have that on record in some way, or to just understand, who has money to pursue something now versus, what, and I don't think that would necessarily, make it or break it as far as going for that pilot, but I think it would be better as a region if we understand who can bring money to the table and which ones we would have to go and secure money for, or if we'd have to secure additional money for. And some of these partnerships too, I think the idea is we want to get on the ground rolling with a pilot, but if we have to spend time, in nurturing and building partnerships, then again, I think that should be important decision that all the directors, or information the directors should be aware of in making that decision on what communities to focus on. Because building those relationships, all of it takes time. And so if that relationship is not in place, then we would want to know that.
Yeah, because to get more information and get these companies to the table, that will involve meetings with all partners and some sense of what kind of, funding is going to be available. So, and ultimately, we want to develop, an RFP, for which you would get a number of competitive responses. I mean, some areas they put it on an RFP, but no one was interested. So they had to go back to the drawing board. But we would, want to do our homework so that there was an RFP would get us where we wanted to go.
All right, so we've heard from Stanislaus and Kings. Can other counties chime in and just let us know if this is a course action they're going to take as well as presenting this to their directors and getting back a prioritized list?
Hi, this is Rob Cunningham from San Joaquin COG.
Okay.
I only see San Joaquin on the ride sourcing, ride splitting, and microtransit alternatives sheet. Mm-hmm. So what exactly is the question for us right now? Is it prioritizing these communities that are listed here, or what?
Let's see.
For San Joaquin County?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So out of these three alternatives, I think Caroline's pulling it up right now. So San Joaquin, we've identified one area for the ride sourcing, ride splitting microtransit. And then I believe you've also been identified, I think, never mind.
Just
about, so San Joaquin, there's just a ride sourcing, ride splitting.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have affordable housing that I found unless I don't have correct data. But you had a lot of areas where your biggest, based on the data I had, your biggest challenge seems to be the dial-a-ride costs.
Yeah. But there's essentially only one alternative for us in the study, right?
That's what I came up with, unless I got more. I didn't get much cost data from you all. Yeah. So if I could get more detailed cost data, I think that you're one of the only counties we didn't talk to the transit agency. Okay. So I've talked a lot to Escalon. I've had a number of conversations with them. And in conversations with you, we kind of identified the Escalon, rural Manteca kind of area.
Yeah.
I have some additional areas where it looked like you could get some, that my analysis suggested there were potential cost savings.
Okay.
So, feel free, if you want to follow up with me, I'm happy to have more conversations to update the data. We've got almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, let's have just a quick one-on-one sometime after this.
Okay, how about I can talk to you tomorrow?
Okay, let me see.
So just send me a time when you're available. I
Yeah.
have good availability tomorrow.
Okay.
Hi, this is Natalia from MCAG. I believe that we will talk with, we've been in some discussions already with Stacy, our Deputy Director, and we'll also talk with Rich Green, our Transit Manager, and just look at the viability of those communities that you mentioned in the table. Most likely it'll probably be Los Banos or Planada, but we do know that we probably we don't have the readiness factor for us. We're kind of short staff. We're not sure we'd be ready to implement a pilot project right now at this time, but we'll have that discussion and we can have our recommendation to you well before the directors meeting.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Amelia with Madera. I think the same. I still have to go back to my director and discuss project readiness for MCTC, and also our transit agencies. But we already have an idea for a project in Madera. It's just the project readiness that's gonna maybe slow us down. So yeah, I'll get you an answer before the directors meeting as well.
Okay, great.
Fresno COG.
Hi, yeah, this is Peggy. Yeah, you know our situation, how we have the private grant funding for the two projects, one in Cantu Creek and one in Huron. So we're gonna go with those, but if you want to join in with those and be a part of that, I'm sure that'd be okay.
Okay, great.
And so Peggy, just to be clear too, are you going to touch base with Tony Baran to just let him know about this project and outcomes? I just don't want to come to the meeting and not have a recommendation for Fresno COG, or at least he's had a conversation with you about that.
And
yeah,
I did
we've had a conversation.
Oh,
yeah,
okay, good.
He's okay with that. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Because I did get some email where he seemed interested in something in Mendota from another staff member for this specific project, and that, I've included Mendota and Fireball, and I think that, I've talked to the housing authority, but they seemed a little bit, it's a lot. I'm not sure they have the readiness to take it on, but they're very interested in pursuing it, but it's kind of a new thing for them.
Okay, I'll follow up on that and let you know.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And then did Tulare join in at all? Okay, so Kern. Do we still have Kern? Are they on mute?
Kern is here.
Okay. So Kern, what would you like to fly these by your director just to get the priority and of what projects you're interested in, get back to us? Would you like a follow-up call, or how would you like to proceed?
We want to have a conversation with our transit agency, but we feel like we need to have the follow-up call with you first to understand some of the nuances in order to make a clear presentation to them.
Okay, and I did talk to the transit agency. I did talk to so many names. Rob. Is that correct? So, yeah. And he was on board with this, but it'd be good to discuss it with him again.
Okay.
So I don't think he'll be surprised by this.
All right, yeah, what we'll do is we'll talk with Bob Neath and see what he thinks about it. We think that's key, is getting that local transit agency involved. And if you have any more conversations with transit agencies in our area, we'd like to be in on them.
Okay, yeah, because they sounded he was very enthusiastic, and then even provided me with additional data, so. Okay, will do. I'll be better about that in the future.
Okay, yeah, we'll follow up with them then and see if he needs any more questions answered before we select one of these. And when do you need a selection by?
I probably, it would be good if we had it early next week so I could include it in the presentation. I want to try to make the very concise. So if you all had suggestions for me, I'd appreciate it, since I don't talk to directors often.
Would end of the week be doable for everyone?
Yes.
And Michael, this is a question for you in preparation of the meeting. When do you need the presentation to share with the directors?
Well, the agenda packet will go out Friday, but if we can't have it by then, as long as I get it to them by email like 2 days in advance, next Tuesday, that would be okay too.
Okay, and I am working on a short executive summary. That
if you can get, whatever you can get to me by Friday is fine, and then we can add more.
I'm hoping I have someone helping me with it right now.
That would be great. Now,
okay.
Just so I clarify, you're gonna get a top project from every county, and then you're gonna present 8 ideas to the directors, and then UC Davis is gonna say, hey, directors, these are our top 3 recommendations, or how is that gonna play out?
Oh yeah. Well, I think.
Well, I'm feeling that the TAC, the TAC group on the call today, I mean, really we would like that to come from the TAC on their recommendations, but we understand that there's difficulties in doing that. I mean, one, you have to review the material more, and you have to speak with, each agency has to speak to their director and others, and so we understand that, and we want to provide time for that. And as far as how the TAC wants to, how we want to identify those top 3, I mean, we can identify the ones that we think will have the greatest cost savings to the agency and potential, highest potential for, on other indicators like greenhouse gas impact, et cetera. I mean, that's the information we can present with our recommendations. So
it's pretty
we can
speculative.
Do that. Yeah.
It's pretty speculative. I mean, I think what's most, it's most important, projects never fail because of, the technology or whatever. It's you need to have the readiness and leadership to really carry the ball forward. And it does sound like, we're getting the sense from 3 MPOs that they're not sure that they're ready, so that that they're kind of not sure that they're going to go, want to be one of the 3. So that leaves 5. So,
Right.
And I kind of wanted to show all these, where you could use these models in your region, because the results that we get for the 3 models can be used by everybody else, if they decide to move forward with those types of pilots in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And,
all of these, but all of these pass the, early on we had a big list of criteria and everything else. All these pass those other tests, and these are sort of the cost efficiency tests that we're looking at here.
Yeah, these are correct? The most robust.
Okay. Okay.
The most robust.
I think if you're coming with that list of 8, and then tell the directors, it was, based on our neutral observances, these top 3 would be the best contenders. I think that's an okay approach. I think, it doesn't have to be the approach, and it doesn't have to be the approach they take, but at least it gives them some neutralness in the process and some comfort with the third party identifying versus each director saying, no, I want one in my county, I want one in my county, I want one in my county. Then we don't get anywhere in the conversation. So I'm not saying recommend 3 ones. I'm just saying casually recommend what you think are the top 3 out of this list if we can get them from the TAC.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I think I'd make that the request from the TAC to not only send us your prioritized, if you have more than one option, I know some of you only have one option that was in the table, but to send us what your priority is of the pilots that we listed, and then also if you could address some of those readiness questions, you know, for partnerships, et cetera, and because that's going to go into Caroline and I feeling comfortable to identify what we feel are the most promising 3.
You know, and it does seem that some of you use consultants, you know, in your area. I mean, perhaps it would be some who really has in-depth knowledge of your transit services in the area. You know, maybe a matter of, you know, getting that kind of person on the team. Because I know a lot of you are, you know, there's someone wanted to say something? Okay, that person could kind of take the lead in forming the partnerships locally, if that was something, because I know you all are stretched very thin.
Okay. So with that, I know we're at our time right now. So Caroline and I think San Joaquin County is interested in following up. And yeah. Kern, did you also want to do a one-on-one or not? I'm not sure where we left that.
Maybe we're going to meet with Bob Neath over at Kern Transit and see if he has any questions. And if he does, then we'll...
Okay, and I'm happy to give the presentation for your transit agencies.
Has he seen these slides or these tables?
He saw some other, I think he saw some, but he was basically, you know, the 2 areas he was pretty interested in, particularly the Arvin, the Lamont area, and he got me data, cost data, which was very helpful.
Okay, cool. And did you guys, we also had a comment on just how you split this up, and we think if you get 8 number 1 projects in each jurisdiction, the top 3, you know, you've got that need for having the ability for deliverability, you know, readiness, that whole readiness issue, you know, is there an agency that's willing to partner with on this grant? Leveraging other funding sources, existing funding sources, that should help ferret out which ones. And then probably the biggest bang for the buck is probably another good category. So those are 3 potential.
Okay. I think the dial-a-ride seems to be the biggest bang for the buck. If we can pull that off.
And you also might want to selectively go for each of the 3 categories, you know, 1 in each of the 3 categories.
Okay.
Just to kind of learn as much as we can through the pilot.
Yes, I agree. That's what I think. So if we have 3 different concepts, then we'll be able to gather a lot of information from the vendors, which are, like I said, that's, yeah, it's a bit complicated to hammer out exactly, you know, you want something that's going to help the environment, and we've got to be a little bit creative about how we do that. So figuring out how far we can push them is what we've got to ascertain here.
Well, if there's interest in anyone else having any one-on-one conversations or follow-up, just reach out to Caroline and I, and we're happy to jump on the phone this week to go over any of this or to discuss it with any of your members. And I think everyone has our contact information. And so I think with that...
Can I just say one more thing? I just want to thank everybody so much. I know I've pestered you a lot, but you've given me a lot of time, and you know, this is really a collaborative effort. Thank you very much for bearing with me as we kind of went through the process of identifying these alternatives. I couldn't have done it without all of your help. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline.
All right, everyone. Is there anything else that anyone would like to share or say before we leave on this call? All right. Well, thank you for your hour and 5 minutes today. And again, just reach out if you have any questions, and we will keep you all updated as we go to the meeting, and we'll let everyone know what comes out from that meeting too, next week with the directors.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.